But you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Welcome to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. And now here's your host, Rich Barris.
And welcome Inside the Numbers, folks, with the People's Pundit. I'm your host, Rich Barris, People's Pundit. Follow me on a truth and getter at People's Pundit, on Twitter at People's_Pundit. And if you haven't signed up for Rumble, please do so at People's Pundit. Which, when you're there, you'll be able to see our locals community, which is the best place to follow us, peoplespundit.locals.com. All right. So if you didn't see, by the way, I was just on with Lee Smith at the Epoch Times. The first half of the show is on YouTube, so you can check it out if you have a subscription with Epoch. I didn't know it was behind a paywall, actually, but, you know, they're awesome. So you should check it out. I was the pollster for Epoch in 2020, if you guys remember. We just went over with Lee. We did the whole gambit. We ran the gambit on polling with a little bit about what we're going to talk about today in the first segment here, about whether or not, is this real? Is this red wave starting to flounder a little bit? Yeah, it was a great conversation. So you'll definitely want to see it. So let's just get into it, though, because that is what we're going to talk about. We have, let's see, where are we? Rasmussen. If you had, that's new. They sent me something new. All right. If you have the locals membership, right, then you got to see it a bit early today. The generic ballot in Rasmussen has tightened, although Republicans still have a lead there. Let's go ahead and bring it up from Twitter. All right, so you guys can check it out. Some people have Democrats up by like 6. It's outrageous. The Economist YouGov poll, give me a freaking break. All right, that's not going to happen. And at this point, frankly, everybody should be moving now to likely voters. It is the month of August, and we are in the middle of the month of August. You don't have to wait till Labor Day to move to a likely voter model. And in fact, you will have a hard time trying to grasp the likely voters who is going to show up if you're just kind of like dipping your toe in the water at the last minute to see what the temperature is. If you've been tracking it the entire time, then you know, even from our registered voter survey, and you can check that out on bigdatapoll.com, go all the way down to the bottom, and you'll see the public polling projects tracking of partisan affiliation. That's of registered voters. All right. So you could clearly see that you had that little honeymoon with Joe Biden, 7.7% advantage for Democrats. That evaporated because it wasn't really real to begin with. The National Voter File Database, as the locals channel also knows, is D+4 if you're being extremely generous to Democrats. At about 180 million records, it's still modeled at only about D+4. That's it. All right. And that's registration. And as you know, registration has been moving against Democrats, and partisan affiliation, unlike registration, is fluid. It is not static like registration is. And yet still Democrats continue every month, whether it's Florida, whether it's North Carolina, where they're battleground states that have registration by party affiliation, even in Arizona, which Democrats under Trump had done a little bit better in. Democrats are slipping. All right. So this idea, don't show me a D+6 poll. Don't show me. That's never going to happen. That is not reality. And at this point, that's just propaganda. It's pure propaganda. And I hate saying that about this industry, but at some point, it's every damn cycle we have to go through this. All right, folks, every cycle. Go back and look and see when Pryor lost the lead to Tom Cotton in Arkansas in 2014. Every cycle we have to do this. Go back and find when Tom Tillis took the lead over Kay Hagan in North Carolina. He never did. Let me let you in on a little secret. When Tom Tillis took the lead over Cunningham, never happened. Every cycle, we have to go over this crap. All right? Yeah, Derek, it's looking like, just to tell you, when it comes down to likely voters, Rasmussen doesn't change their modeling. Let me pull this up, make it as big as we can. All right. You can see right there that it's D+2. They do not change in their likely voter model until they come together. All right. The whole firm will come together and debate this and say, okay, based on the Consumer Sentiment Index, which is conducted by the university, or for the University of Michigan by Thomson Reuters. Richard Curtin runs it, has run it for a very long time. They use that as a guidepost. And they retooled. Independence became a little bit more, right? Right, Susan Collins, another one, Will, never took the lead. She looked like she was going to be defeated, and we went over it the other day. DRI was the only damn firm against everybody who said two things. One, Trump is going to carry the 2nd congressional district. Everybody had Trump losing the 2nd congressional district in Maine. Didn't happen. He won it, and he won it handily by 8 points. Exactly what DRI said he was going to win it by. And they were the only ones to show that Susan Collins was going to hang on. Everybody else, Susan Collins is done. It's her Kavanaugh vote. She's finished. And speaking of, by the way, my man Will, I'll tell you what, Minnesota won again. We talked a little bit about this on Wednesday. Donald Trump won it by 10 points. Republicans never win it by 10 points at the congressional level. So to compare Donald Trump's performance, all right, to the congressional candidate's performance is incorrect. He got 51.1% of the vote, Fincham, and Fincham, sorry. He got 51.1% of the vote, which was about 1.5 points better than they did in 2020. So give me a break. Joe Kent is going to Congress. Deal with it. There is no way Perez is going to beat Joe Kent in Washington 3. That being said, looking at the tightening of the generic ballot, I can't wait to get into the public polling project again, which has had a nice little fundraising bump. Let me check and see where we're at real quick. And we're about 20% of the way when I looked yesterday. We're 77%. All right, so just under 22% of the goal, which I have not increased this month. I'm going to have to increase it next month. All right, it sucks, I know. Or next project. But I did not do it this month. I can't wait to go in and see where we stand as well, because as you guys know, I did see a little tightening, but I never expected Republicans to win the generic ballot, House vote, the actual House vote, by some of the margins that we were finding. And I told you that, +7, it can be reasonable. That is possible. All right. But in the end, what happens is some of these younger voters, the 18 to 24s, 25 to 29s, they're undecided for a long time. And then when they decide or they come home, the generic ballot tightens. All right. And the same thing, by the way, with seniors. They're not going to vote Democrat. They look like, though, they're a little bit more Democratic than usual. In the end, I suspect that they will come home to Republicans as well, especially with everything else that's going on. But we can see here that men, Republicans are still carrying men, 49 to 41. Females are only D+3. If that happens, Democrats are getting their butt kicked, even if Republicans only win the popular vote by 3-4 points, roughly in that ballpark. Democrats are going to get shellacked. The last time the female vote was this close was 2014. It was even in 2020. Even. By the way, look at some of the polling yesterday. Arizona, you can't reconcile some of this. You have those of us who show this as a 1-point race to 3-point race either way at the governor and the Senate level. And there was another one that just came out showing that yesterday. And then you have these others who were coming out with like Kelly +15. There is no chance on God's green earth is Mark Kelly going to beat Blake Masters by 15 points. Every cycle we run into the season in the summer, and there becomes a response bias issue for Republicans. It happens every cycle. Some of them simply can't deal with it. Others are using it as a handicap as a crutch, that plausible deniability to show what they want to show, which is that Democrats are doing better. You will see when Labor Day comes, these races will start to tighten again. And maybe they never give some of these Republican candidates the benefit of the doubt. Maybe Blake Masters goes in and never has a lead on Mark Kelly before in like the averages of polls. Maybe that never happens, and yet he wins and he beats Mark Kelly by 3 to 5 points. Maybe that happens, but I will tell you, it will tighten. It will. All right. So, and by the way, in that poll yesterday, did you see Kerry Lake's performance among Hispanics? Did you see Blake Masters, their performance among Hispanics? What they want you to believe is that the white vote is going to shrink so much for Republicans that those two candidates are going to hold on, even though they're actually losing the Hispanic vote to Republicans. So every damn year, yeah, Biden plus 17 in Wisconsin. Biden plus 17. All right, so traditionally, Republicans have a hard time getting over 247 seats. With redistricting, this is the first time that Republicans have ever had a map so favorable that you could, what used to be their cap at 247 should be looking like 250 now, just from adjustments in redistricting. If they wind up doing worse, then it's completely on them. Because all of the economic indicators, all of the predictive indicators from right track, wrong track, presidential approval rating, all of it suggests that Democrats are in deep trouble. Barack Obama was still kind of popular when they lost 60 plus seats. Now, Democrats won seats in 2008. They never had any business winning because it was a landslide election for Barack Obama. We don't really have that this time. So if you're looking at what's on the board, somewhere in the neighborhood of 35 to 45 seats sounds rather normal for the historic, average of first-term incumbent midterms, but it's still pretty good. Now, again, though, I've kept this Rasmussen poll up to show you. They haven't changed those weights because that's not how Rasmussen works. They're not like us. The party is not going to be different month to month or week to week, whatever it is. The party affiliation will remain 33% Republican, 35% Democrat, 32% other, unless they come together because of something they see in the survey of consumers that makes them change their mind. And it has to be going on for a while. So we had been before the holidays talking about how many more people were identifying as, if they were independent before, they were identifying as Republicans. If they were Democrat, they were identifying as an independent. We had been talking about that for a while, but the survey of consumers was like that for about 3 months, 4 months, and that's when they decided, okay, this change is justified. We're going to go to D+2 instead of D+3. If the electorate, think about this, folks. This is a Republican +3 lead. If the electorate is R +2 to 4, what does it look like then? A lot more like a red wave. But again, I tell everybody with caution be cautious with these polls because we do this every damn cycle. And it's really kind of exhausting. Love the guys at the decision desk, but they literally sent out an email the night before they changed the rating in Georgia. They sent out an email that said, we all know about the summer polling. We all know that it's probably not really changing the state of these races. It's a non-response bias issue for Republicans who are on vacation or doing whatever they're doing. They don't care. They enjoy their life. And it's true. Democrats are far more willing, likely, and they like to participate in surveys than Republicans are. Of course, Rich, one's liberal, one's conservative. Exactly. But it's also more than that. Democrats are always on. They're always on. Republicans tend to want to enjoy parts of their life, which is why, by the way, it was dumb to schedule a runoff election on January 5th in Georgia. Perdue and Loeffler already, the minute they did that, the legislature did that, they were in trouble. Because Republicans, like, at some point I have to enjoy my life. Multiple people last night I was talking with too about this, or some version of this. I need a break. I need to enjoy my life. And they're sure as hell not going to pick up the phone and talk to me for 20 minutes. So we will see. We will see. But as of right now, I'm telling you, just vote and ignore them. All right. Talk about, I want to bring up something that I shared with locals the other day. Okay. Hold on. Let me bring it up. I'm actually going to share this, even though this was like a locals post, but it's already been up there now, so it doesn't matter. Where are you? Let me bring up my locals chat too. Sorry, guys. I didn't have you on there. Aha. There are a few things I saw in this because a lot of people want to know about Wyoming. It's the last real big primary. We're almost out of the primary season here now. For most people, they have already pivoted into general election season. And everyone wants to know about this Liz Cheney thing. Does Liz Cheney have a chance to survive? The answer is no. Liz Cheney is going down. All right. The only question is by how much. And I'm looking at, is this it? Let me just make sure I'm sharing the right one. I don't want to share something that's wrong. All right. Yeah, there it is. Okay. I'm looking at this poll the other day that came out in Wyoming, and this is exactly a point. It was such a great example of what I'm talk to you guys about when we do weighting. All right. Waiting up to me is a no-no. Of course you can do it. All right. It just, two things will happen. It'll reduce your waiting efficiency. That's number one. And number two, you're basically trying to compensate for not talking to enough people. All right. And I don't like that. It makes me uncomfortable. I like to oversample and wait down. It makes for a better waiting efficiency. All right. So I'm just going to read this out. I saw a few things. First, or overall too, I'll get you the margin here real quick. Hagman was up. Where are you? Can't you just give it right up front, please? Of course not. You're going to make me scroll. Oh, for the love of God. Okay. Harriet Hagman was up 57.4 to 27.8 for Liz Cheney. Okay. Liz Cheney was getting only 15.4% of the Republican vote. Harriet Hagman was getting 68.1. 98% of Democrats who intend to vote in the primary are going to vote for Liz Cheney. Only 2% are going to vote for Harriet Hagman. However, Liz Cheney had a 2-point lead with independents, 43.2 to 40.7, rounded to 43.41. Something caught my eye when you look at who are these independents, okay? So back to the age thing. 18 to 44 all were weighted up, and two of these groups, they were weighted up significantly. The unweighted sample for 18 to 24 is 58, N equals 53. Excuse me, not 58, 53. They spoke to 53 people, interviewed 53 people between the ages of 18 and 24. That was 6.3% of their raw sample. They weighted up to nearly double at 12%, 11.5, in an attempt to compensate for falling shy of what was their 12% benchmark. All right. That alone, folks, will reduce the weighting efficiency when you double an age group like that. That alone will reduce it probably around 92%. I would say if, I could probably throw what's the word I'm looking for? Like a mock data set in MarketSite and show you, but it would bring it to about 90. All right. Which alone would be fine, but it is just one variable. Weighting up by a larger factor significantly increases the error rate for each subgroup. So 18 to 44, all being weighted up. When you look at 25 to 34, that's N equals 77. They spoke to 77 people. That was 9.2% of their total raw sample. And they weighted up to 16.8. Still shy of the 17.6% benchmark. Tell you right now that these two moves, their weighting efficiency is somewhere in the ballpark of 87 to 88%, maybe less. That is not good. We've been over this with the Public Polling Project before. I went in great detail in the state of Virginia when we pulled the Youngkin race together. I went into great detail to show you why I was not wrong with the 18 to 29, that it in fact was going to be that close. Youngkin was only going to trail McAuliffe by a few points with that group. And he did. Because instead of not reaching enough of them and then weighting up, we oversampled and weighted down based on the likely voter model. Given the percentage of independent voters in these age groups, this is extremely likely to me, highly likely, that they are going to misrepresent vote preference for independents. What do I mean by that? They did not speak to enough younger people who are a big share of that independent vote to know that margin, or roughly that margin, for certain, not certain because it's never certain, but within what their stated sampling error. It's going to be wrong. And if it is going to be wrong, then Harriet Hageman could carry the independent vote. And if she does, she will increase her lead. What should have been done? Well, given 70%, in quote, 70% of completed surveys of cell phones, end quote, sampling frame was designed so that nearly every telephone number in Wyoming had an equal probability of selection for this project, they should have simply just trusted the turnout among these age groups is going to be lower than their benchmarks. That's what the voters are telling them. If that particularly likely voter model is worth a pot to piss in, which I don't know if it is, it's another question altogether, what those voters are saying is, look, we're not showing up in droves. The other age groups are, which is why it's a problem, this 25 to 34. You have that 30 and up. You have that 4% of that right there. It doesn't resemble 25 to 29 at all. That's why we do 18 to 24, 25 to 29, 30 to 44, 45 to 64, and 65 plus. And then the age detail is those two younger age brackets, 30 to 39, 40 to 49. Why? Because, folks, 25-year-olds and 34-year-olds are very different. And we try to keep it to the exit polls. But when you're just not getting enough of these people and then you're trying to wait to compensate, there will be a miss. It's going to happen. If this margin is close to right, it was by sheer luck. They got lucky. All right. Regardless, considering they also waited for gender, age, and county, their weighting efficiency is in the 80s, and that is not good. While gender it just lightly weighted. There was nothing wrong there. And it's unlikely to significantly impact efficiency. Albany County was weighted up by nearly twofold. And Laramie County was the only large county to be weighted down. So they spoke to people in more metro areas. In Wyoming, of course, it's easier to reach. It's hard to reach rural Wyoming. And they weighted up for rural and weighted down for metro. Coupled with the heavyweights on age, if this was my poll, I'd be concerned about a big miss. You cannot wait and extrapolate to compensate. A little rhyme to help us remember that in polling, bigger really is better. All right, look. So I wanted to do that real quick. And we're going to move on now because there's so much going on. I want to get it in for today and leave time for questions. Free Will and Friday, remember? This raid on the president has brought up all over again. Oh, God. So let me tell you something. I will not sit by while my agents are maligned. Your agents are corrupt. Don't yell at everybody else being Mr. Garland. Don't yell at everybody else being skeptical or outraged over what you did because your own attorney, your own inspector general says that you lie to obtain warrants all the time. In fact, if you look at a subsample, you violate Wood's procedures on the regular. On the regular. So excuse the country if you no longer are trusted when it comes to anything, let alone breaking 200-year ridiculous precedent. And I'm gonna read that from the Wall Street Journal in a little bit. But before I do, this whole thing has brought up this question about privacy. They seize the phone of the attorney of the former president. They don't even show him the damn warrant. When they finally give him a glimpse of the warrant, he doesn't get a copy of it. They seize Scott Perry's phone getting off the airplane the other day right after the raid on Trump's residence in Mar-a-Lago. All of this crap, right? And you never know when the FBI goes to these companies what they're just going to what they have collected on you, and then what they just intend to hand over without a fight whatsoever. So I wanted to bring on someone who noticed, first of all, there's a problem when it comes to privacy. This is a problem. And secondly, there may be a solution to that problem. That's a market solution. So I wanted to bring him on because there's a lot of this alternative economy that people have been forced to create. You see Bannon with the alternative financial economy. Basically he's creating his own currency, or it's another system, I would say, right? And then you have people like Dave from Volta Wireless, and I'm going to bring him on right now. Dave, you ready? He's ready.
Yes, I am.
First of all, thanks for joining us. All right. I'm just going to kind of give you the floor and tell you what Volta Wireless is and why you started it. Because Dave and I were in Dallas last week together, and we were talking about it, and I wanted him to come on and speak to you as well. So go ahead, Dave. The floor is yours. Why did you start it? Remember at Bentley's? Same thing. Seriously.
All right. Sounds good, Rich. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. So what is Volta Wireless? Volta Wireless is a privacy-focused mobile service provider. And so you sign up for Volta Wireless, and not even the network operator is going to be able to track your location, your identity, your communications, or your internet activity. And why did I start it? Well, I have spent most of my career working outside of the U.S. I worked in crazy places like Russia and Kazakhstan and Saudi Arabia and Kenya and things like that. And what I saw happening all over the world when I was working in these other countries is I was constantly being monitored by the local security services. Yeah. And I was really excited in 2019 when I finally finished my last job in Kazakhstan and said, okay, I'm moving back to the States and going back to the land of the free. And I got back here and discovered I'm more surveilled in America than I ever was living in Kazakhstan or Russia or any of these other crazy places. And so that really kind of frustrated me. I was concerned about that.
Yeah.
And so I started.
Can you just repeat that? Can you repeat what you just said? So everybody hears that again.
Yeah, the average American is more surveilled in the United States than potential, people that the Kazakhstan security services or the Russian security services think are spies when they're in Russia. Okay, that's how bad it is in the U.S. now. It's just it's crazy how much surveillance is actually going on, and how much of it is actually considered to be completely legal, and the collusion that goes on amongst companies and the government to enable all of that. So if you look at the United States today, people talk about big tech does this and big tech does that. And what people very often forget is who were the original big tech companies in the United States? It's the telecom operators. Back in the 1920s, there was an article published in the New Yorker magazine talking about this great new thing, how the telephone companies were cooperating with the FBI and the police to allow them to listen in on the phone calls of potential criminals. Not people that had been convicted of anything, but people that were just potential criminals. And they showed photographs in that New Yorker article of agents sitting in the room with the operators, listening on sets of headphones to various phone calls. And they could listen into whatever phone call they wanted to, pretty much. And that's been going on now since the 1920s. So for more than 100 years, the government and the telecom operators have been cooperating with each other, collaborating with each other, colluding with each other. And so what form does that take today? Well, today it's the mobile phone. Everybody thinks of it as a communication device. In fact, it's a tracking device. By law, Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile are obligated to keep a record of every single phone call you make and receive, a record of every single text message you send and receive. They track your location 24/7. They track all of your internet activity. Because they're able to track your internet activity, they're also able to track all of your app usage on your phone. Every time your app connects to the internet, they know it. And how many apps do you have on your phone that don't connect to the internet, right? And so the mobile operators are really the holders of the greatest data set ever assembled on
It's,
U.S.
it's
citizens.
ridiculous.
And oh, by the way, by law, the government actually has pretty good access to all of that data. Now, there was a ruling in 2018 by the Supreme Court stating that there's some limitations on the government needing to get warrants to get access to certain types of information. However, it doesn't cover everything. It doesn't cover all situations. And the government's been able to find a lot of great ways to work around that. In addition to that, you mentioned a moment ago the Inspector General talking about the FBI breaking the law or lying. Well,
Regularly.
According to the Inspector General, a report that was issued this past spring, and there's a great Wall Street Journal article about it, the FBI last year alone illegally accessed the phone records of U.S. citizens more than 3.4 million times.
Wow.
Illegally accessed them without a warrant, without even asking for a warrant, more than 3.4 million times. Okay? I mean, that's just an insane number of illegal events by the FBI, and all of them were around collecting or seeing the data from your mobile phone.
Yep.
So it's
Well,
just
and-
crazy.
and
this environment, and of course, Google and Amazon, everyone else tracking you, that led me to start Volta Wireless. So there's got to be a solution to it.
And that's where I wanted to ask you the difference between what you do with your company and with a regular. It's because it's beyond whether or not these companies share your values, right? Which they don't, right? And I just left, another mobile provider because of last year when something happened. I just counted. I have 92 apps on my phone. And people who watch the show know it's scary what I know about you guys. You guys know this. I know whether you're a homeowner. I know what subscriptions you have. If you have like magazines, you subscribe to Field and Stream. I know what your cable provider is. If you have cable, all of this stuff is available to people who collect big data like we do. I have 92 apps on my phone. They all connect, obviously. What's the difference with Volta? All right, because I know that it's direct right now between me, my phone, my information. That is all directly transmitted and available. What's the difference with Volta? Explain how Volta works and what safeguards you put in place.
Sure. So it's a very good question. The way we look at it is privacy is a pretty huge space, and there's a lot of actors out there trying to collect all of your information and track everything you do and all of that. What we did was we began with the mobile operators. And so if you look at AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, when you sign up for a subscription with them, you provide them, with a copy of your driver's license or identity card or whatever you want, whatever they ask for. Let's say they want to know exactly who you are, where you live, etc. And then from there, they essentially collect all of that information. When you sign up for Volta Wireless, you provide us with an email address. You sign up anonymously. We don't want to know who you are. One of our core design principles is ignorance by design. We don't want to know anything. When you're using an AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, they're collecting your location 24/7. As I said before, they're collecting all your internet activity, your communications, etc. Volta Wireless does not collect anything. And actually, the way that we present you to the networks, it inhibits the networks from being able to track your information as well. So we don't present, hi, this is John Smith, let him onto your network. We have essentially dramatically dropped the amount of data that's presented to the network. But not only that, if you look at it, your average wireless service provider like AT&T, Verizon, etc., they're using a couple of technologies, voice technology and SMS. So on your phone, you could think of them as your phone app or your messages app. Those are by definition not secure technologies. Why? Because when you place a phone call, you're not calling me directly, for example, Rich. You're calling a server that sits in AT&T's data center, and then that server is connecting your call to me. And they have the ability to listen in on that call, record that call, keep a record of that call, et cetera, et cetera. And so by definition, voice is not secure. Same thing with SMS. That's how they're able to keep an exact copy of every single text message you send and receive, because there's always a server in the middle. And that's what's known in the industry as a man-in-the-middle exploit. They're able to have a man in the middle listening to everything. With the Volta Wireless
That's
service,
what the scandal was about with Apple, is that basically, not only is that there, but that they just hand it freely over when the fans ask for it. I mean, they don't even fight. They used to fight, right? For a little bit, Dave, they fought in the beginning a little bit, but then they just kind of rolled over like they had done before the era of mobiles.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And if you look at what's happening, what's the difference with our service is actually a data-only service. We provide you with an app that you put on your phone so that you can make phone calls and send messages, and the people you're calling will receive them as a voice call or receive them as an SMS if they're not a Volta subscriber. But from your phone, it's a data only, and the reason we do that is because then we can encrypt it, and we use 3 layers of 256-bit encryption. So we make sure that it's completely secure going from your device. At the very least, if you're calling another Volta subscriber, it's completely peer-to-peer. It's going from your device to their device, and there's no server in the middle. If you're calling someone who's not a Volta subscriber, say you're calling your doctor's
That's what
office,
I was just going to ask you. Yeah.
It goes from your device to our data center, and then at our data center, we have to connect it to the regular telephone network, and it goes out from there. So somebody who's connected to your doctor's office is going to be able to listen to your phone call with your doctor's office. But if they try to trace the call back to you and try to figure out who is it that's making the call, where are they located, they're going to get dead-ended at our data center because we have no way of knowing who you are or where you're located because we don't collect that information on you, right? And so, what we started with was just trying to stop the mobile operators from being able to collect your information. And that's the Volta Wireless mobile subscription service, right? Next, we began looking at, okay, how else is your data collected? Okay, we need to stop our internet activity getting tracked by everybody. And so we released our own VPN. So when you sign up for Volta Wireless, you also get the Volta Wireless VPN service for free within your subscription. In addition to that, we've launched the Volta Private Phone. And the way this came about is every time I was telling people about the service, they said, well, do you have a phone? And so finally we decided to develop our own phone. And the reason we did that, though, is really interesting. You're a numbers guy, and I am too. And it's kind of scary, some of these numbers. So the FCC ran tests. Okay, these aren't David ran tests. This is the U.S. government, the FCC ran tests, which means they're probably understating it a little bit. According to the FCC, the iOS operating system, on average, sends information on you back to Apple 52 times a day. The Android operating system, on average, sends information about you back to Google 14 times an hour. That's more than 350 times a day. And so the whole objective initially in launching the Volta Private Phone was to launch a phone that doesn't use Android or Google. It doesn't use Apple or iOS, right? And so disconnecting from having your operating system being a big part of that tracking device. And so we developed the Volta OS. It's Android-based so that you can use all of the apps that you want to use, but it is completely de-Googled. So we don't connect to Google at all for anything. Even the App Store, we use a thing called the Aurora App Store, which essentially provides fake information to the Google Play Store, so you can download anything that's on the Google Play Store through Aurora without Google knowing who's downloading it. And so that's where the Volta Private Phone came about. We also have the Volta Private Phone Pro. The big difference on it, of course, is that it actually has 2 operating environments. So you have your Volta Phone basic environment. You can, if you want to put the Facebook app, you're willing to have the Facebook app on your phone for some reason, you can do that. But then if you want to, you can type in a code and your phone will reboot into a completely physically separated operating system environment called the Pro mode, essentially where you can do all your secure stuff. You want to have your cryptocurrency app, your banking app. You just want to reboot your phone to have Facebook stop tracking you. It'll shut down that basic environment and it'll operate only in the Pro mode. And so you can only do the basic environment when you need to do something on social media if you wanted to.
Let me ask you, because you figured out a way to do this, basically to make it with privacy involved, I mean, not even involved, paramount. Why don't the telecommunication companies do this? Why did they never try? Because big data is money? Is that really just the answer? I mean, is it that simple?
I think it has to be the answer. And if you look at the last 5 years, all 3 of the major operators were fined hundreds of millions of dollars for selling people's real-time location data. It's illegal to sell people's real-time location data.
Justice Roberts was like horrified.
Without admitting guilt, they paid the fines and continued business as usual. So they must be making a fortune from selling.
Yeah,
your
think
location
about
data.
that, David. Think about that. If they're willing to take it on the chin and just pay the money and move on and keep doing it, then obviously it's a cash cow, and it's
Absolutely.
worth it to them, folks. So they don't care. And Chief Justice Roberts himself wrote about this in 18, like you were bringing up before. This was horrifying to him. Which, by the way, I don't want to get into it because we're streaming to YouTube. I just want to take that to the bank, folks, with a certain movie that came out recently that people were saying, the so-called fact checkers were mocking and debunking. Think about that the next time you read one of those ridiculous fake fact checks. Can you port numbers? Could you port a number? Okay, that's a simple question.
So when you sign up for Volta, you get a Volta private number, which is a brand new anonymous phone number. But if you want to port your existing number in so you can make and receive calls with it, you can. The only downside being, of course, that your name probably by now is somewhere associated with that phone number, right? So if you make a call to somebody, it's not going to be anonymous anymore. They're going to know who owns that phone number, right? That's the only downside of that.
Let me ask you a question. Do you worry that the telecommunication companies will sick their dogs on you, their government dogs? I'm serious. At some point,
I'd say two things there, right? So we have agreements in place with 800 network operators around the world to use their towers. We don't use their core network. We use their towers. We connect all of the calls and messages and stuff ourselves. And so in a way, I'm a customer of the big corporate networks.
That's right.
Unfortunately, I don't have the pile of cash to build my own towers right now. Maybe someday we will. But we're using the existing towers. And so I think that they kind of look at us and say, okay, they're kind of we're flying under the radar right now at this point, right? We're relatively small. We're not significant competition. Until we've got a few million users, they're not going to pay any attention to us. At the same time, I do expect somebody will come after us eventually. People are going to get tired of hearing how Facebook is tracking us, Verizon's tracking us, and then there's this alternative, Volta Wireless, that can prevent these guys from tracking you, right? And so somebody's going to send somebody from the government after us. But we have a very simple approach. We're ignorant by design. We don't have any data. We have your email address and we have your phone number, but we don't know who you are. We don't have your mailing address. We don't know anything about you. We don't even maintain your payment method, actually. We partner with a third party to do all of the payment processing, and they just tell us, yeah, this person paid. So we know that your subscription should stay active. And at the end of the month, they send us a pile of cash, right? We don't want to know who you are. So we don't have your payment details on our website at all. So if somebody shows up with a subpoena or a search warrant tomorrow, we simply say, okay, here's our servers, take a look at them, see what you can find. For us, we don't worry about it because we're ignorant by design. We don't know anything.
Yeah, it's a really incredible idea. I was taken aback by it. With everything that's gone on, people are looking for these parallel economies, to create a different way of doing things. I think that we had entered the information age, whatever you want to call it, or even beyond that. Now it's like the age of new information and machine learning information. I mean, it's totally different than even what happened in the late 90s all through the 2000s. And as a nation, as the world, we just didn't have a conversation about what this means. In America, it matters more, I think, because we have a Fourth Amendment, because we have, we have a Constitution, and we didn't talk about this at all, David. When everybody was so happy, oh great, Facebook's cool. We all got stuck in the screen, man, and didn't really think about what this meant for us, going forward. And now you see politicized agencies that they have so much that they can come at you with. And I just think I got to applaud you for it, because I really think it has to be the future. It has to be. This has to be the way forward. Because if we continue with their infrastructure, we will always be under their thumb. It's really that simple, and people like you are really the only ones offering solutions. So yeah, tell people where we're going to come up on a break here, but tell people where they can learn more about Volta.
So they can learn more at Volta on our website. You can see it on your screen underneath my face, I think. VoltaWireless.com, VOLTA wireless.com.
All right, cool, David. Thanks for coming by. I've seen your commercials before too, before we met, and I'm glad I got a chance to talk and get to know you. And we'll have you back sometime to give us an update.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Rich. I really appreciate you having me on.
All the best, David. So really, folks, take some time and think about all of the stuff. I just added them up during that interview. 92 apps. And I don't use them all, but I mean, is how many even just come on the phone these days? I don't like it. I don't like it. I love big data. I love what I do, but I get kind of like, man, it's making me nervous, especially since these people are just not trustworthy. They're not. I applaud telecommunications for 10DLC as a pollster because it makes my job harder when there's so much spam and crap and the networks are being abused. It makes my job harder because then people tune out more. They're more distrusting. But beyond this, because what 10DLC is a way to verify who you are so they know, okay, that's big data poll. He is polling people. He's not spamming people. This is legitimate. Let the message go through. So you'll get the message. Hey, John. Hey, Jay. Hey, Sam. Hey, Norm. It's Rich from Big Data Poll or whoever it is. Mitch, Laura, Matt, whatever. Take a couple of minutes. You've been randomly selected to take a survey. Take a couple of minutes. Your opinion matters to us. Go get them, Tiger. Click the link. Or respond back with text up. Right? But beyond that, because that is a last-ditch effort to get a hold on this before the government steps in. Oh, God. Do you imagine if the government gets involved in the polling industry like that? Oh, God. They will decide, people like Robert and Jim and myself, they won't let our messages go through. But they'll let their friends, their media university friends, they're going to do that. By the way, Twitter safety, you see that what they learned from 2020 is that hiding that Biden story, the Hunter Biden laptop story, the Biden family, the Biden crime family story, I mean, that is what it is. Hunter Biden is not really the story. Hunter is a bag boy for his daddy. That's the story. What they learned from this is that, hell, we can really influence elections. Let's do it again. Let's do it earlier. And maybe we can influence elections more than we did in 2020. Whoa! The truth is, as Libby from the Post Millennial noted, correctly so, who I met last week too, by the way. Nice girl, does good work. What she correctly noted is that misinformation, so-called misinformation, has really simply been, how do we define this, right? Or how has it been used? It has been anything or anyone, any information that goes against the consensus narrative. It has been labeled as misinformation. And it doesn't matter whether or not that narrative has been right or wrong. It's true about COVID. It's true about Russia. It's true about it all. It doesn't matter if that narrative 6 months later has been totally debunked. Like Trump supporters tried to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer. All right. Which, by the way, today, the retrials, they're going to retry those folks because it was such a debacle. Every single defendant got off because the FBI is so crooked. Mark my words. Mark my words. They will soon start labeling the outsider pollsters, the independent smaller firms like myself, Robert Cahaley at Trafalgar, hell, maybe even Jim Lee at Susquehanna. He's got some pretty big clients, so I don't know, but they will label us as misinformation when they don't like our poll results. That's coming. That's coming. And David is absolutely correct, because who takes money from all these people, folks? Go look at Kevin McCarthy's balance sheet. That man is raking it in hand and fist for his funds, for himself, his PACs, Leadership Alliance, from Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley. Big Pharma, Silicon Valley, and energy are Kevin McCarthy's primary contributors and primary contributors to his committees and organizations that he controls the money flow with. So for me, if I do not have confidence in Kevin McCarthy to tackle these problems, and I'm telling you, again, mark my words, they're double right, Jay. They're doubling down on what they did in 2020 with the Hunter Biden laptop story, the Biden crime family story. They're doubling down on that, and they will start to label polls that they don't like, that are going against the grain, against the narrative. Before, like I said, whoa, Trump +9 in Ohio. That guy's misinformation. Everybody has Biden up by a few points in Ohio. We will start to get this tag. I'm telling you. It's going to happen. If we don't stop this soon, they're just going to do it, Joel. They're just going to do it. They're just going to call. Miranda Devine was right, was she not? From the New York Post? She was right. Doesn't matter I was right in Ohio. I'm against the narrative. And it doesn't matter, and I don't want to get into some of the other topics here too, but it doesn't matter from, health policy to economic policy to whatever. I mean, 6 months ago, something that is widely known, the lab leak. Think about the lab leak. That was a conspiracy theory. Everybody knows it came from a wet market. I'm telling you, Thomas Massey is, you know what? We will try to have him on, Jay. We will. Because he is, he is one of the few voices, along with like Rand Paul. By the way, Thomas Massey used to be a pain in Trump's butt, but he kept him honest. Come on, can't you just vote for this bill? No! It's filled with pork. It's not right. Can't we just get behind this healthcare bill? No, it's not what we told people we would repeal and replace Obamacare with. So if you're on the right, he's a national treasure to you. Thomas Massey? Absolutely. All right. With that in mind, it's 12:54. We're going to have Don on real soon. We're going to start taking some Q&As. All right. So I think maybe what we'll do is we'll take an early break. I did want to read this though. Hold on. I have to do it before Don comes on, because then I don't want to interrupt, while Don's on. Let's do it. Let me get it up here. What I love about it is people who are done with the FBI and are like, it's time to abolish the FBI. No, the response is always, oh, but then, we're going to be unsafe here and unsafe there. I feel about the terrorism thing. I'm right. The evidence is on my side. They haven't stopped anything. They haven't stopped shootings. They knew were going to happen. They didn't stop terror attacks. They knew were going to happen, or at least could have prevented if they would have done their damn job. Sarniev brothers, Pulse, down the line. We still don't know what happened in Vegas. They won't tell us what happened with Vegas. But what I love about this is that he proposes what to do after we do it. All right. And the bottom line is, I think a lot of people post 9/11 got duped. And I got to hand it to my boy Poso. If you didn't see a special FBI, the American Stasi, you need to see it on Human Events Daily. It was incredible. But he said it right. We were talking about this actually last week, him and I, that post 9/11, you kind of had this image the G-men were the good guys. It's like fear did what Hoover never could do, which is convince the American public that they're really just a bunch of Boy Scout attending, Ivy League educating, super smart guys who have the highest integrity, blah, 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 blah. Nobody ever really believed it. And then 9/11 came around. Robert Mueller took total advantage of it. He got his Patriot Act. He started abusing the law left and right. And everybody was so afraid that they never really pushed back until now. Even Posa said, look, I fell for it. I fell for it. Don't feel bad, Jack. I think a lot of people fell for it. For the rule of law to reign, the Bureau must be destroyed. The FBI cannot be saved. It must be rendered into component parts and distributed to the four winds. Kyle Schidler. Or Scheidler, if I'm saying it wrong. Check this out. It's a great article. From the time I was 7 years old until I was 20, about 20, I was in love with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. In the second grade, while other kids wanted to be firemen, I wanted to be a special agent, and I could have told you what one was, what they did, and what the requirements were to become one. In the early 1990s, my favorite show was FBI, The Untold Stories. And if we were not home from Cub Scouts in time for it to air, there was a tantrum on the way. I did a book report on J. Edgar Hoover biography in middle school. David wrote about Hoover. I just want to say this real quick before, because he's going to start getting into some of this. Take your warrant and stick it where the sun doesn't shine. The warrant means nothing. It is the affidavit is where you find out the lies the FBI tells the court. Whether the court willingly or whether they know their lies, which I do believe that in the case of those FISA warrants, obviously the judge had to be in on it. Brady Contreras. There's a reason why he bounced before Flynn's case. My zeal mellowed as I grew older, but never entirely disappeared. As I began my career looking at counterterrorism policy, I meticulously studied the FBI's extensive investigation of the Holy Land Foundation, the largest Islamic charity in the country, which was successfully convicted of financing the terror group Hamas after more than a decade of FBI investigation. I've written 2 short monographs about aspects of the case. Later, I had the pleasure of providing a 3-hour briefing on the ideology of Islamic terrorists for an FBI-led group of Joint Terrorism Task Force, or the JTTF, people know who that may be, agents, which included one of the agents who worked the Holy Land Foundation case. Several of my colleagues have signed certifications from the FBI in recognition of their work in counterterrorism education. I say all this to establish that I am not some dyed-in-the-wool civil libertarian who has always had it in for the federal law enforcement. I have spent most of my life trying to educate people about the serious... something happened there. I have spent most of my life, adult life, trying to educate people about the serious national security threats this country faces. The United States has very real enemies, both foreign and domestic, and it requires defending. Nevertheless, geez, isn't that weird right there? You see that? Okay. I don't want to... Oh, crap, you. All right, hold on. Let me refresh it. Hold on, because that just went off. I had no idea that was going to make an audio sound when that happened. All right. Let's go back up. I'm not some dyed-in-the-wool, blah, blah, blah. The United States has very real enemies, both foreign and domestic, fires defending. Nevertheless, the FBI abolished. The solution to the abuses we now endure is not just to subject the FBI to another fruitless Inspector General investigation, but to dismantle it completely. The Bureau cannot be the focus of yet another congressional hearing. FBI Director Christopher Wray, like his predecessors, is more than happy to sit smirking while a handful of grandstanding congressmen and senators pound the table and yell on CNN. Then he'll jet off for a holiday vacation on taxpayer-funded private jet while the same congressmen vote to increase his budget again. No, the FBI must be rendered into component parts and distributed to the four winds. The Bureau has always had its problems and its detractors. Since the days of J. Edgar Hoover, keeping his own, quote, private, unquote, files on elected politicians and famous persons, the FBI has had a political streak. As an agency, it has always been savvy about its reputation, bureaucratically out-dueling federal departments that sought to infringe on the Bureau's perceived preeminence in the fields of law enforcement, federal law enforcement, and counterintelligence. But most of the FBI's politicization had to do with it maintaining its own administrative superiority and independence, not serving as muscle for a particular political party. That's no longer the case. The FBI's actions over the past 6 years make perfectly clear the FBI is more than willing to serve as the enforcement arm of the Democratic Party. It serves as its patron shield in matters large and small. It exonerated Hillary Clinton for her illicit server. It raided James O'Keefe and Project Veritas when Joe Biden's daughter lost her diary. It eliminated investigation into Black Lives Matter and other black identity extremists because those pursuits annoyed the Democrats' Congressional Black Caucus. It refused even to utter the word Antifa, while churches and pregnancy centers are firebombed. It continues to cover up for Hunter Biden's corrupt dealings with enemy nations, along with his indulgence in criminal prostitution and drug abuse. Ladies and gentlemen, look at how young that Russian prostitute looks. Could you imagine if there was video footage of Don Jr. with what appears to be a 15 or 16-year-old Russian prostitute, and then after doing the deed, abusing her the way that is captured so disgustingly? And why would Hunter Biden even video that? Because he's a sick. Imagine if the roles were reversed. I bet you there are little Hunters everywhere, and that's why Joe Biden won't acknowledge that he's that kid's grandfather in Arkansas or Louisiana, wherever it is. Grandpa Joe, step up! Kid needs a better life. But the FBI has also served as the Democrats' sword as well. It knowingly laundered the Russia collusion hoax, lying in order to secure FISA warrants. It ambushed the president's sitting national security advisor in a nonsense perjury trap. The FBI hunts down January 6 protesters while dodging congressional inquiries about the role of federal agents in provoking the incident. The FBI ginned up a fake kidnapping plot in Michigan to instill fear of right-wing terrorism, manhandled the former president's lawyer, and shackled one of his former high-level aides. By the way, if you didn't see the tweet on Twitter, why is everybody surprised that the FBI would whore a female informant? The FBI will do whatever, anything and everything. I don't know why this is some shocking revelation that they made some girl sleep with someone. Maybe it's because I come from the real world. Even people on the right, like, oh my God, this guy just admitted his informant slept with some. What are you talking about? Of course. You do a lot worse than that. They get informants killed. Sleeping with someone is not a problem. It has now raided the former president's home under a mere pretext, while the Democrats openly crow on cable news about using a political persecution to prevent Trump from ever being able to run for office again. Right. That's really what this comes down to. Other attempts to rein in the FBI, short of its abolition, have failed. The FBI shows nothing but contempt for those who are authorized to oversee it, and we're actually going to show you a clip of that when we come back from the break. It routinely ignores Inspector General investigations. It fails to prosecute or punish those who overtly violate established policies. It refuses to answer legitimate questions from Republican committee members. It doesn't even respond to congressional letters of inquiry. It punishes FBI whistleblowers and seeks to purge from its midst those agents who aren't in lockstep with its new Praetorian Guard role. Break it up responsibility. Assuming the political will existed to do so, how might the FBI be dismembered in a way that would not expose the country to unnecessary security risks? Begin by separating out the FBI's component parts. The FBI's crime lab, statistical services, and National Crime Information Center service could be pulled out and left as independent agencies with the sole job of supporting other federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies with their scientific and data capabilities. Sounds reasonable to me. Parse out the FBI's Criminal Justice Division and its tasks to the various state-level bureaus of investigation. Provide direct federal funding to compensate for the extra workload. Let them primarily make state-level cases in state court for the crimes committed within the physical boundaries of their states. It's not as though kidnapping, bank robbery, drug dealing, or racketeering went unpunished before the FBI came along. White-collar, financial, and cyber crimes can be handled by the U.S. Secret Service, as it had always been, by the way. Federal crimes whose perpetrators directly cross state lines can be given to the U.S. Marshals Service to track down. Unlike the FBI, the U.S. Marshals are largely scandal-free and have a long history of cooperating successfully with state and local law enforcement. And not only that, they have a long history of being loyal to both sides' presidents. For the disgraced National Security Division, divide up the FBI's counterterrorism portfolio among the remaining federal law enforcement and homeland security agencies with a role to play, and the various state and regional JTTFs, Joint Terrorism Task Forces. Who has a stomach for this work? The FBI's stranglehold on counterintelligence is perhaps the most important to break. It is within this division that the FBI spied on the Trump campaign at the behest of the Democratic Party. Even before it willingly embraced the role of partisan opposition researcher, FBI counterintelligence had few memorable successes, Anna Chapman and Operation Ghost Stories being a recent one, but multiple crushing failures, the most notable of which was Robert Hanssen. You remember that? Do you guys remember who Robert Hanssen was? They gave Robert Hanssen the entire keys to the kingdom. He was a Russian agent. The struggle to conduct professional counterintelligence has always been driven by a tension between the FBI's responsibility as a law enforcement agency with the intent and the authority to jail citizens for crimes and practices of counterintelligence, a discipline that requires strategic patience and analysis. By the way, how many people did Robert Hanssen kill? How many people died because of the incompetence of the FBI giving Robert Hanssen the keys to the entire freaking kingdom? I bet you it's uncountable. I bet you will never get access to the files in the archives to know. Not the real number. Robert Hanssen operated for decades as a Soviet spy while being the boss at the FBI, the boss of counterintelligence. He literally wrote the book, furnished. The FBI's responsibility for counterintelligence should be taken away and vested in the National Counterintelligence Executive, the NCIX. Its mandate should be not targeting American citizens, especially elected officials, but rather policing the intelligence services themselves, rooting out evidence of foreign penetration within their ranks, exploiting and manipulating foreign intelligence services for national security interests. They do not need law enforcement powers or wide-ranging FISA court warrants for this job. Admittedly, a GOP majority Congress may not have the stomach for even the lightest pushback against the GOP. Not these leaders. Expect even the promise of ineffectual hearings to fade as soon as the midterm elections are over. David, he's so right. After all, few congressmen are as popular with their voters as Donald Trump is with his base, and if the FBI can slander and investigate a sitting president, what couldn't it do to a freshman congressman? What he's telling you right here, I'm going to get back to that. But imagine how the walls of the deep state might begin to show cracks where Congress would hold fast and declare at the outset, one way or the other, the FBI is finished, with no quarter given. Then you might see bureaucrats looking for soft landings, crawling out of the woodwork with tales about FBI bad behavior and who to hold responsible. You might have a few good apples stand up and speak out if they knew with certainty that their superiors would no longer hold the keys to some future employment. Indeed, there may be any number of agents in far-flung field offices across the country who might rejoice to see themselves rehired by another law enforcement agency that actually cares about enforcing the law. But the FBI itself, as an institution, cannot be saved. To save the rule of law, the Bureau must be destroyed. Amen. And let me tell you what Kyle is saying here. They will blackmail your elected leaders. These new guys coming in. This is what he's saying. What wouldn't they do to a freshman congressman? You think for a second that the impeachment managers are clean? What do you think the FBI has on Eric Swalwell? Adam Schiff rubs elbows with arms dealers in Ukraine. What do you think they have on him? They're never going to provide oversight, and we're in an extremely dangerous position. an extremely dangerous position when at least one party, if not both, have abdicated their duty to oversight these incredibly powerful federal agencies. Not only have they abdicated the duty to do so, they're in cahoots with them now. They collude with them to escape accountability and persecute political enemies. We are in an incredibly dangerous time. And by the way, McCarthy was right. It's absolutely sad, ladies and gentlemen. Absolutely sad. You're watching Inside the Numbers. We'll be back after 2 minutes and 46 seconds with Don Smith. Don't go anywhere.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love, because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to disappear overnight, just to give into the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Whoops, we're back to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I'm your host, Rich Barris, the People's Pundit. All right, that was fun. Listen, I got a little clip I want to play, but before I do, I'm going to bring on my good friend, Don Smith, and we're going to talk about this. Don, thanks for joining us as always, my friend. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. I'm loving this 0% inflation.
0% inflation. You believe these idiots? And people actually believe this stuff. A reduction in the rate from month to month or the 12-month is not 0%, you stupid idiots, you economically illiterate imbeciles. It's still a 40-year high if you take away just the last month. That beat it.
Yep.
It means it increased less, but it still increased. And it's state-run media, Don. State-run media, because these idiots allow them to talk like this. This is what I want to talk about, too, though, with this clip, which is that nobody used to understand what I was just talking about with the FBI, or at least they claimed. Nobody used to understand better than the left, not the politicians. They've always been using the FBI, too. All right? Nixon was not the only one to use the damn FBI. You have got to be. And by the way, they took Richard Nixon out. All right. If you really put it all into context, Richard Nixon didn't really do anything all that bad. Let's get real for a second. Is it any different than Roosevelt, targeting the IRS on his political opponents, the federal law enforcement on his political opponents? The left has been doing this for a long time, but their voters used to pretend at least to care about the surveillance state, to care about the deep state, the administrative state. They hated the FBI, my friend. Hated them. You remember? Mm-hmm. Right? These are people who recorded Martin Luther King having an affair so he wouldn't accept an award out in public. Folks, they leaked the tape of him having sex with another woman to his wife in an attempt to get him not to accept an award. That's how petty these people they've always been. So this pretentious bullcrap. Like that was Hoover's depiction of them. It was never real. These like men of integrity, men. It's crap, man. I want to play this thing by Ted Cruz. All right. And get your take. Because it's exactly what Kyle's talking about. All right. Exactly what Kyle's talking about. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to play the whole damn thing. But I'm going to play, I think it's around the end. Here we go.
How many FBI agents were disciplined or reprimanded after that disastrous case and the misconduct that led to
Michigan,
every
folks.
Defendant being acquitted or having a mistrial on every charge?
The kidnapping thing.
Senator, I can't comment on a personnel matter. I can tell you that case, as I understand it, is now pending a retrial, as I understand it.
Well, the special agent in charge of that case has now been sent to D.C., to the Washington, D.C. office, and now leads the investigation regarding January 6th. Is that correct?
That doesn't sound right to me.
That does not sound right. The name of the individual is Stephen D'Antuono. He was run out of the FBI Detroit field office. And by the way, I will point out that the lead investigator, Special Agent Track, are you aware that he was apparently fired for allegedly beating his wife after coming home from a swingers party, and he made multiple derogatory political posts about President Trump showing political bias? Are you aware of that?
I am aware of, I think, the incident you're describing and action that was taken about it. To clarify on the first part of your question, Mr. D'Antuono was the special agent in charge of the office, the Detroit field office. It is now the assistant director in charge of the Washington field office. I thought you were asking about
that's who's prosecuting this case.
So the guy in charge got promoted and is now in charge of the January 6th investigation.
Yes.
The guy in charge of the whole Detroit field office is now in charge of the whole Washington field office.
That is astonishing.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Incredible. He now heads the office that is actively trying to drag the former president from Florida to a damn jury in D.C. This is who it is. Couple that with the judge they ran to, who got Epstein a sweetheart deal to stay out of jail, defended all of his molesters. What the is going on?
This is where we're at. So we've talked about this a lot, about they've declared war on us. We talked about it at the event Thursday night. This is part of that war. When I say they've declared war on it, I'm not just talking about a couple things here. They're kind of picking away at things here. This is all out. This is using every federal agency. You mentioned about the Democrats, how they used to, they were against the FBI, right? They were, because the FBI was always corrupt. I mean, let's be very clear about this. The whole creation of it. It was created as a corrupt or political organization. I mean, it's never been anything other than that. But now they have control of it, right? So now they have control. They can use it. So you can't pick on the FBI. You got even Liz Cheney out there now talking about, oh, this is terrible that you would say that there's anything wrong with the FBI. Come on. This is the way it is with everything, right? They hated the media until they had complete control. Once they get complete control of it, then you're nefarious for having a problem with it. That's what they do. But this is, it doesn't even surprise me anymore, Rich. I don't know.
This is why people are disgustingly outraged. This is why these defendants in the Whitmer trial are going to get off again. By the way, By the way, Vice News, I tend to like some of their stuff on Vice News. I watch some of their documentaries, stuff like they still are pushing. It's a brand new documentary. They're pushing, claiming it's the original fake narrative that these were Trump white supremacists kidnapping Whitmer. This is crazy. I want to read what Julie Kelly says. Okay, holy moly, tuning. And by the way, they're going to get off again. They're going to get off again because the American people abhor this. Are you ready? Holy moly, tuning into the Whitmer trial. FBI agent handling one of the informants admitted a female FBI informant slept in the same hotel room and same bed as Barry Croft, the informant's target. But we all know what happened in that bed. Let's get real. This was related to a training exercise in Wisconsin hosted by another FBI informant. Under Cross, the FBI agent couldn't say if that was against FBI policy handling informants. He couldn't say, Don. He couldn't say. Sometimes informants have to play along, he says. They also smoke pot together. The FBI agent said it's an illegal activity. They can't participate in that. But they did. And then they just pretend like they're stupid. Like they don't know what the freaking policies are. You're a handler. You're an informant handler, and you don't know what the policies are on handling informants and behavior? You're a lying piece of crap. You're a liar. They lie about everything. Text from the FBI handler to the FBI informant, tasking Croft, quote, keep working to solve the differences in the group. Show them they were brought together by Croft and he has good ideas, unquote. The defense attorney noted the FBI wanted to keep an alleged terror group together that wanted to disband. Let me say that again. They claim this is a terrorist group. The FBI is instructing their informant to make sure the group doesn't break up. We don't plant evidence? Well, the defense attorney said the Facebook page that all this was going through was created by the government. We put in a record today that showed that Steve Robeson, the FBI informant, created the event in Wisconsin that you're going to hear a lot about. And that was how he was teeing it up before he got into it. They know about the Pulse nightclub shooter. They know his father is a Hillary supporter, attending Hillary events. They know he had lost his freaking mind and was going to kill a bunch of gay people. They know about the Tsarnaev brothers because the Russians told us, the big bad Russians. The FBI didn't do a damn thing about it. They were too busy climbing up Trump Tower to stop Parkland, to stop Pulse, to do it. This is unbelievable. Unbelievable. And by the way, that warrant they could take and wipe their own asses with. I want to see the affidavit. The warrant means nothing. It means nothing. It's a game. What Merrick Garland did yesterday was a game, a political game. We're going to leave it up to the president. What a little shit. What a little shit stain he is.
It's all weaponized. It's all political at this point, and we've got to quit looking. Okay, so we got to also the word unbelievable. It's and you're right, it is, but it's not. It's real. This is all real stuff happening in real time. You mentioned Nixon earlier. In comparison, how about spying? Actually spying on a political candidate and a political opponent. Let's be very clear about this. I would say that's like 1,000 times worse than what Nixon did. Taping some people, stealing some
1,000
tapes.
times.
They wiretapped President then candidate Donald Trump. Think about this, folks. This is real. So, it's unbelievable, but we're beyond that now, right? It's like the whole thing with conspiracy theories. They're not. They're real, and it's happening every day. Who knows what's happening right now? Look at the media on every single. I know you've gone through some of the primary stuff, and look at every single Republican that won. Read the articles, folks, from every one of them. I know they're all independent. Read it all. It's all the same stuff. There's a tie into January 6th. There's a tie into QAnon. There's a tie into, look at Wikipedia, changing all of the candidates to far right-wing commentator and politician, including our guy, John Gibbs. But it's not just him. That's my point. Everybody that's a Republican that won is now a far right-wing So the media is doing their job. It's what they're supposed to do. We know they're in coordination with the FBI, with all of the federal agencies. Look what they're doing with the FBI, folks. Why do you think they're doing this? Because they want Jeffrey Bezos's money. They're not getting Bezos's money. He's not going to pay one. They're not even going to look at him.
Right.
This is about
No,
This is about
they're not.
shifting the power and completely taking over the IRS. You think they're going to hire a bunch of people like you and me? No. No. You got to have some strong creds to get those jobs. So, folks, this isn't going to get any better. It's going to get a lot worse.
The FBI leak to Newsweek was wrong. They leaked to Newsweek that story. All right, this is how you know you can't believe a damn thing that comes out of their mouth. They leaked that story to Newsweek in an attempt to try to cover their butt and make themselves look better. They said in that story that Merrick Garland had no knowledge of it. And then he traipses out less than 24 hours later and says, I personally ordered it. I personally oversaw it. And then they're claiming NBC, Joe Biden didn't know. Bull crap. Folks, there is 0% chance, 0% chance the president of the United States did not know about this raid. 0. That's number one. Number two, NBC has the audacity to repeat that crap. Yeah, Joe Biden, he didn't know about Michael Flynn. He claimed outright, I have no knowledge of any criminal investigation in it was his idea. It's on paper. It's in black and white. Obama and Biden both claimed they didn't know, they were lying, and Joe Biden is the one who came up with the idea of using the Logan Act, which, he's an idiot. He's stupid. So the idea of using the Logan Act to go after the national security advisor is a little bit crazy. Somebody you would have thought, Don, at the FBI, somebody would have been like, the Logan Act has never been used and it was not intended for this. The Logan Act was designed so, back in the colonial times, people didn't go overseas and pose as a diplomat or something. It had nothing to do with this. He's a liar.
And they're absolute cowards. This is another situation where, we've got this unnamed source, this inside informant. Okay, think about this just for 1 second. How many people watching right now believe that if you go to Mar-a-Lago, that you're going to get a tour of Melania's closet? How many people do you think she takes in? Come on, ladies, help me out here, right? And that's just not something people do. She's not going to take you into her closet. So they knew stuff was in her closet because they've been in her closet. How many people does that even make sense to? These people are cowards. They're hiding behind the same thing. Where's the investigative journalist? Huh? Find out who this is. We don't even know who leaked the Roe v. Wade stuff, right? I mean, these people are all cowards, but they don't even have to give people this information anymore. They're so above it all now. These are the people running around saying nobody's above the law. You all are. If you vote left, you're above the law. But it's like their favorite talking point now. Nobody's above the law. No, they're only talking about Trump. That's the only person they mean when they say that. So this is on a whole new scale. This is a whole another level of this war. And everything is politicized. Again, what do you think they're doing with the FBI? That's what they're doing, folks. Completely taking it over. They're going to wash people out.
It's unbelievable that Paul Pelosi's above the law. Hunter, Joe, and James are above the law. Hillary Clinton's above the law. They're all above the law. Right. And the answer, Rich, any chance the GOP grows, and defunds the D.C. Circuit and Circuit Appeals, Court of Appeals through reconciliation? Before we answer that, Joel, I just want to say, think about what Don just said. This is outrageous. The FBI essentially was panty sniffing the First Lady of the United States, ladies and gentlemen. This is outrageous.
It was personal. That was personal. That's how they were able to make it personal. That was a just so you know.
Yep. And the answer, Joel, I'll give Don his thoughts too, but not this GOP.
Nope.
No way. Let's be real. People like Tim Scott and others, they don't want Trump to win.
Right. They
don't want him coming back either. Something I note has not been speculated on. Trump gave back 15 boxes of docs in February. If he kept anything or made copies, he'll be prosecuted. If not, investigation remains ongoing until he can't run. Well, I would say this. This is part of this. The president is not the Secretary of State. So to use this law to have a problem with Trump when Hillary Clinton had a personal server, the president, in fact, can declassify whatever the hell he wants. The law does not apply to him in the same way that it applies to the Secretary of State. A lot of people are not understanding this. It's not the same for Trump. That's number one. Number two, nor was it for Barack Obama, which it was just outrageous that Barack Obama ferreted 30 million documents over to Chicago without the National Archives being able to do anything with them first. But I don't think anybody seriously argued that anything he took, even if some of it was classified or sensitive, well, he's Barack Obama and he can take whatever he wants and declassify whatever he wants. The deal is here, folks, there was open communication here. You don't, maybe everyone's not understanding this. They planted another spy in his thing in his circle, when he was openly cooperating with them. They read the transcripts from the trial in Michigan. This is how they behave. This is a problem. It is an ongoing, widespread problem. They are corrupt. They look for evidence. They plant evidence. It doesn't matter. Like all of these arguments some of you are making, you don't get it. It doesn't matter. The Logan Act against Mike Flynn, the Presidential Records Act against a president. This is crazy. It's because Megyn Kelly, 100%. Her, I always like Megyn, but did you see her rant the other day? She's like, if you believe this, you're an idiot. This is to go through and search through everything to see what they can do to give to the January 6th committee, to give to their team of investigators to stop him from running. They are trying to politically persecute a guy that is currently kicking their ass in the polls. Don, I thought it was illegal to investigate your likely political opponents, especially when they're ahead of you in the polls.
Not when they do it.
Everybody better wake up, man. Everybody better wake up. It's over if we don't stop this right now. Right now. They got away with everything. We've gone through the history of this ad nauseum. They got away with it all. An attempted coup, a counterintelligence coup is what Russiagate was, folks. That was a counterintelligence coup. Something they use on other countries. They got away with it, and now they basically just panty-raided the First Lady. Yep. This is disgusting.
You know what this is, Rich? This is the ultimate of all time wrap-up smears. This is the wrap-up smear. This is about money. It's about fundraising. They're losing their fundraising. They're falling behind on the fundraising. This is about making the election all about Trump. But this is about losing their base. This is what's really going on here, in my view. This is about losing their base. They're panicking because their base is they're turning on Garland. If you've been watching the chatter over the last month, actually 2 months, but especially the last month, because they're just screaming for Trump they want him perp walked. They need him to be perp walked. And they've been slamming on Garland. What are you doing? Why aren't you doing anything? And it's hurting the party.
They have been.
It's hurting the party. It's hurting the fundraising. It's hurting the candidates. It's hurting everybody. So that's what this is. They're gonna come up with some evidence. Oh my God, look what we found. Here's the point, though. Nobody's gonna believe it. To Megyn Kelly's point, this is ridiculous. So the base is going to believe it because they need to believe it. But you know how many independents are watching? You know how many leftists are watching this going, man, that just doesn't feel right. It just doesn't look right. I don't know. We probably should. So in the end, they're going to lose, but they will raise money. I don't think it positively impacts them. And they may tarnish Trump further. I don't know. We'll see. Time will tell on that. But that's exactly what's going on here.
That's what it's about. Yeah, I mean, I went back and I looked at the May data set for, that's data view. I went back and I looked at the May, I believe it was May data set for, it was 2021, right? So it was it late summer? No, I thought it was May of this year. It could have been winter. Let me look at winter. 18% had a great deal of trust in the FBI. You guys remember that? We did this? 18%. That's all. That's it. Unbelievable. And I was just trying to look for it right now by party, but I mean, for the crying out loud, guys, for the love of God, Don, I hate to use that word, you know what I mean? But they are risking it all here by doing this. I don't think this will go quietly into the good night, my friend. We're streaming to YouTube, so I'm trying to be careful here. All right. I think people, this is going to lead to a widespread political upheaval. Okay. That's what this is where this is going. I really don't think you could do this to Trump without all hell breaking loose. Anyone else? Yeah, but Trump, I don't think so. By the way, I'm extremely disappointed in some of the responses from some people. They just were not strong. Kerry Lake had an extremely strong response. But some people did not, including Ron DeSantis. I mean, it was strong, but it wasn't like, to me, if I was the governor of Florida, I'd be outraged. How is it okay for Democratic governors to bring in the National Guard against the federal government to protect the institution of Jim Crow? But it's not all right for Republicans to take action. General Paul Veld, he released an entire plan on what needs to be done because this country is under assault from crooked tyrants, and this is a serious problem. The DeSantis message was weak, Sojourner. He was the governor of Florida, so his message should have been the strongest out of all of them. Like, I will not tolerate, I don't care if he's the former president or a short order cook, I will not tolerate the FBI abusing their power and persecuting the citizens of my state. That is what should have been, and if that means calling in the National Guard, that's what it means. Because this fake outrage from Merrick Garland and Christopher Wray, even the Wall Street Journal, the editorial board article, did you read it? It was, shut up. You guys are a bunch of crooks, and everybody knows it. When the Wall Street Journal is saying that, I mean, come on, man. I knew when he turned it around, what was it, 45 seconds into his statement? I knew. I was like, yeah, these people are a bunch of panty-raiding, lying pieces of garbage. I mean, what did you make of his statement? We don't have to play it. What did you make of his statement?
I mean, I thought it's pathetic. I mean, I've been talking about this for a long time. Is the left has always been really good at communications. I mean, that's like what they do, and it's been very effective for them overall. You go across the board of everybody in this administration, everybody has anything to do with this administration, they're terrible at it. I mean, look at the press secretary they've got right now. I mean, no fan of Jen Psaki, but she was good at what she did. So she was maybe the last one that they had that was actually good at communicating. But Merrick Garland, I mean, that was pathetic. It's unbelievable the level of communications coming out of these people. But he's the one in the hot seat. I mean, that's what was my point a minute ago. He's the one in the hot seat. So he's like, I'm sure he's getting a lot of pressure from this administration, from remember all the stuff about Bill Barr.
I was just going to say, Don, what happened to the independence of the independence of the FBI, the independence. Trump is threatening the independence of the FBI. I mean, this guy has gotten, could you imagine if Molly Hemingway's right. This guy was nominated to be a Supreme Court justice. Look at this idiot.
Yep.
He actually could have done, I mean, I don't know where he could have done more damage, but Molly Hemingway's like, isn't it crazy that we're now wondering in which position Merrick Garland would have done more damage? As a pushover attorney general, because he is. Yep. As a pushover attorney general, or as a lifetime appointed Supreme Court justice. It's crazy to me.
Totally more.
Go ahead.
Totally
Which
more
one?
damage. He would have done way more damage on the Supreme Court because it's a lifetime position. I mean, so right now, at least it's, hopefully a one and done and he's gone, but he would have done long lasting damage to this country as a Supreme Court justice. Plus it would have shifted the balance had he made it through at that point.
13.8% of independents have a great deal of trust in the Federal Bureau of Investigation. 14.9% of Republicans. So actually Republicans were like 1 point more on great deal. Democrats are only 30%, but 46% have a fair amount of trust. And among third-party voters, 10%, dude. 10%. I got to show. If people think I'm full of crap, I got to show this. I got to show it. Go ahead.
One thing we got to keep in mind here, though, too, is so different agendas, right, for the right and the left, for the people that were part of that. I would venture to guess that the numbers are going up on the left right now for their trust in the FBI.
Yeah, probably.
Because when they don't trust him, it's because they weren't perp walking Trump, right? So
that's right.
I bet those numbers will go up.
Yeah, you know what? Don's right. If we were to pull this right now, the numbers would be higher. Let me close the editor so everybody can see it. See if I can zoom in one more time. No. Well, yeah, because I'm sure no opinions there. A great deal, 15% for Republicans, 28% for Democrats, about 3 and 10. 13.8 for independents, or 14, and 10% for something else. That's it. That's your fault, Merrick Garland. That's your fault, Christopher Wray. That's all your, by the way, Sean Hannity and his rank and file good guys. Are you all awake now? I mean, do you need to listen to Sean freaking Hannity anymore? All right. Are you done now? Are you done? I know the good rank and file guys who don't like the leadership. No, you don't. You don't know anyone. You're full of crap. You are lying about your sources. Tick tock, Sean. Tick tock. You are so full of crap, it's not even funny. You don't know anyone, dude. You don't know anybody. You're echoing John Solomon, whatever he's telling you. It's pathetic, man. Where's the justice for Sean Hannity's viewers, huh? Rank and file, rank and file. Oh, my God. I mean, are you all over it, or is it just me?
No,
about you, Don. That's your buddy.
Yeah, that's my buddy. Lifelong buddy,
Rank
BFF.
and file.
He's a clown.
What a fool, man. I mean, where is the indictments, right? For the coup. It was a coup. Does anybody understand that? It was a coup. Where are the indictments Sean told you were coming?
Yep.
I don't know. Maybe he couldn't, maybe he got hit too hard in the head in MMA and he really didn't hear what John Solomon was telling him, right? I know he's an MMA fighter. I better watch my mouth.
He's coming for you, man. He's coming for you.
If he can get his arm around my neck, let's see. I think my traps are bigger than his biceps. So I'm an MMA fighter. You know, I used to lay bricks when I was a kid.
Sheetrock.
You know?
Bartender.
Sheetrock. I've done it all. Meanwhile, you know, because it's a joke. I mean, I'm mocking it because it's such a joke. He has controlled opposition. This is what he's been telling you for years. And look at where we are.
I like how in a 5-year span, he had like 30 different jobs. It's like, wow, you must have been really good at them then. Huh?
Dishwasher, Jay.
Dishwasher.
We forgot about the dishwasher.
Bartender.
Yeah, Don. So either like he packed a whole lot in a real small time period, or he sucked at all those jobs and was fired. All right. Oh man, I'll tell you. You know, it's not sad to say though. Although I'm curious as to what he would have had to say right now, Rush Limbaugh, if he was still alive and with us. You know, some of this makes you feel like my grandfather, World War II veteran. Like, thank God he's not. Of course, I miss him, and I wish he was. Thank God he has not lived to see what this country has become. You know, like I don't know that some of those people would ever have believed that it would get to be this bad. Like, and then their next thing would be, what the hell have you been doing? You know, like, if he was still alive, I know that's what he would say. What the hell have you been doing? How did you let this happen?
Yep.
Terrible.
He spent his whole life warning about this, telling everybody this is what's going to happen. And here we are. Amazing.
Yeah. 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 I think too, Jay, I'll get your thoughts on this. A lot of people are talking about this. Do you think they timed this raid so Tucker was on vacation? I know they were trying to time it so Trump wasn't there, you know, to or at least so they say. But what do you think?
No, I would say no. Certainly they timed this. Whether they tied that into Tucker, I mean, it's certainly possible. I mean, anything at this point in time is
You never know.
that's the time we're living in now, where anything is possible. To my point earlier about there's no conspiracy theories. There is no such thing. If they tell you it's a conspiracy theory, it's probably real. I mean,
you're over the target. You're over the target.
Yeah. So I don't know about the timing with Tucker. Maybe so. I think the timing is they had to save the base. Because again, the base was screaming out for Garland to do something, and thus they pinned that to this administration. I mean, so that's the bottom line. Somebody's got to do something. Why isn't he already arrested? They believe this man should be arrested. And if you get in a conversation and say, for what? Specifically, what would you arrest him for? Well, and it's all the generalizations. Well, his whole family, this and this and that. No, give me one specific thing. And they can't.
Yeah,
they never can, ever.
I was actually looking for something, and I'll look for it while I ask you this, because a lot of people want you to speak to this. I'm going to get this video of Newsmax when they do ask somebody about it. This guy is calling for Trump to be arrested and has no idea what crime he would have even be charged with. I mean, this is, listen though, a lot of people want you to speak to, and you and I had a long conversation Tuesday night into Wednesday morning about Rebecca Clayfish and the collapse of her campaign. Why don't you people want you to elaborate on what you know and how things went off the rails there, man. And then they also want you to speak to Michaels, because I have told the audience over and over again, I know we got Trump's endorsement. I'm not sold on him being MAGA. We will see. But go ahead. Why don't you take it from there?
Well, I mean, the Rebecca Clayfish thing, we had a long conversation, and it's just unbelievable. I just can't believe how monumental this is. I mean, this is the Titanic of debacles. It's unbelievable. So when I did that interview with her a couple months ago, she's up by like 7 weeks ago, I think I did. She's up by 22 points by her internal polling. You and I were talking about it at that time, and I think we both had it around 30. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's where I was at, was about 30, and I thought you were pretty close to that too. Yeah, her internals told her 22-point lead. Think about this, folks. 22-point lead. Michaels just gets in, and she's up 22. What did she lose by? What was the how many points? 5 it is right now. 27-point swing. Using her numbers, 27-point swing. It's almost impossible. It's almost impossible. So when I had her on, and so known her for a while. So I mean, we go way back. She knows what I do. So she was, very conservative, but that's how I've always known her. I've never known any other Rebecca Clayfish. That's who I know. That's right. So I started recording when she came in, but we talked for like 10 minutes. I started recording like 3 minutes into it. We talked for 10 minutes, and it was not recording, and she knows we're not recording. We're just talking. And the things that she's saying are like, so can you help me with some national media stuff? And I need to do this and I need to do that. And she was asking for help, right? But she was conservative, and she was all fired up, and she was gonna turn Wisconsin into, she was gonna give us a run for our money here in Florida. She was going for it, man. You're gonna love it. We're coming for you guys. That's exactly how she said it. So you guys will see that tomorrow. I don't know if I had played that before, because again, it was before the interview and we recorded. But it was just incredible, that person, compared to then watching her on her ads and watching her parade around with Nikki Haley. And then, of course, the coveted Mike Pence endorsement was just absolutely brilliant. So I get a call from her guy, her comms guy.
And somebody just said in the chat, by the way, that I would have voted for Rebecca Clayfish, but then the Pence endorsement came and I went the other way.
Okay. And on that note,
there it is.
I got emails, messages, DMs. I got all kinds of people from the state of Wisconsin who were going, oh my God, that's not what she sounds like. I've been watching. If I knew if I'm going to vote for her, because she is conservative, because that's not what was being presented to them. They made a decision. It's really not a Trump state anymore, and we really got to go a little different route. Don't be handled. If you're a candidate out there, don't let anybody handle you. If they say, okay, don't say that anymore, say this instead, make sure that that's what you believe if you're going to say that. I mean, it's so frustrating to me on that kind of stuff. This is what happened.
What about Michaels, though? Oh, go ahead.
Well, she got handled.
Finish what you were going to say.
She got handled. Yeah. And when I was talking to her guy, I'm like, if you think Donald Trump is going to come in this late in the game, recruit somebody, because that's what happened. I'm not saying that in a nefarious way. He didn't like what he was seeing, so he recruited somebody and brought him in late in the game. If you think he's going to kick back on his couch in Mar-a-Lago and just go, well, I hope Tim Michels does okay. Of course, he's not going to do that. Winning is very, very important to this man. It's important to a lot of people, but especially with him, it's personal. It became personal for him, and there's reasons we could get into. I'll talk more tomorrow about that. But I told them, I said, I hope you guys are ready for what's about to happen, because this is going to be a blitzkrieg like you've never seen before. And they were like, well, you know, I don't know. I said, wait till the rally. Well, there's not going to be a rally. They came out and they said, Tim Michels said, no, at this time, there's no plans to have a rally in Wisconsin. That's what they tell you to say. That's word for
when
word.
There's not a date yet.
When they're in the process of booking the rally, that's what they tell you to say, people. Yeah. And I told this guy that. He goes, well, I don't know. I said, not only is there going to be a rally, it'll be right before the primaries. Just
of course.
So you know. And he was like, oh, so he said, well, I'm going to have the manager give you a call and let's talk about some things we can do. Thank God, Rich, the guy never called me. Thank God he never called me, because if he would have called me right back that day or the next, that weekend she was parading around with Nikki Haley. So, and that would have been it for me. That would have been it for me, much less the Pence thing. And I don't think that they would, because they were handling her. So they probably wouldn't even have listened to my advice. So thank God I didn't.
No, they wouldn't have done.
That would have.
They wouldn't have. They had their plan.
Yep.
And that was it. They didn't want to bend the knee. So they decided to, which I'm sure you'll elaborate on tomorrow, but they didn't want to bend the knee. They didn't ask him for his help. They were trying to move on from Donald Trump, and it was stupid. And it's a shame because, again, like you said, I don't know anything about Michels. That's the problem. What I know about him, I don't like. All right. Yep. And what I know about him is that he's a longtime Paul Ryanite. Okay. So go ahead. Speak to what you know about Tim Michels.
So big construction company in Wisconsin. He's got one of the largest construction companies. Pretty much everything in southern Wisconsin he's at least been a part of, but he's the only one big enough to do some of the major projects that our government or the state awarded stuff. So he gets all the state awarded stuff. So he's got all his connections there. Always been, just like you said, he's kind of the Paul Ryan kind of guy, establishment kind of guy. Always supported that kind of. He would have been a John McCain kind of guy. You know, that's who he was. The question is, who is he now? Now you got Trump there. Trump's he's not going to deal with that. So it's almost a little bit like the Glenn Youngkin thing, right? Where you're like, is he really? Let's see what he does, right? What are the actions? Is he, you know? So this is the thing with Michels. Obviously, he would be better than Evers. So maybe a little bit of a lesser two evils thing, but she was the better candidate. She is more conservative to the core, but she got handled, and that she is not blameless on all this. She is not blameless.
That's what No. I mean, ultimately, it comes down to the decision that the candidates make. They are ultimately in charge of their own campaign. I tell people this all the time. What do I do? What do I do? How do I do this? Yep. Hey, could you call this person for me? Like, this is a moment where the candidate has to take charge because the candidate is in charge. I can make a call for you about this. Of course, I can do that, you know. But when it comes down to, wait a minute, I don't like the direction this is going. You have to be, as a candidate, willing to lay down the law. This is the way I am going to portray who I am. I'm not going to be somebody else. I'm not going to get handled by you, or you. It's not going to happen. Honestly, it's her fault. You could blame the advisors all you want. You can blame Scott Walker for bringing in Mike Pence because he did it, right?
Yep.
You can blame, but ultimately she allowed it. It's her decision. She screwed it up. Let's play this thing real quick. Go ahead.
Let me just wrap up with this. This whole thing to me is heartbreaking. I mean, I don't always take all this stuff personally and all those kind of things, but this one to me Rich, it broke my heart. I don't know. So
sad, and they probably just, like I said, took out a future U.S. senator. I mean, they took her right off the table. So I said on Monday, I think it was, or Wednesday, I said, Mike, if you want to lose, you want to be a loser, do it yourself. Stop taking the talent off the bench. Yep. Let's listen to this. Speaking of losers, cut.
Is this unprecedented to arrest a former president for not turning in documents?
A former president that had committed this many provable criminal acts.
Provable
criminal acts, I guess.
approval criminal acts. Well, I'm done talking.
Listen, I'm telling you guys right now. I'm done talking. Listen,
That's
I'm
awesome.
telling everybody that these overly educated middle-aged white people are a threat to our country. They think they're so smart, but they are in fact the dumbest among us, and they're rabid. They're rabid, right? Like rabid. There's an issue with how their brain works, and they have many problems here that we eventually need to deal with. I don't know if we just have to wait for this to be a generational shift, a change. I don't know, but they are a problem. They have got to be, as the Rush Limbaughs of the world always said, these people have got to be defeated.
Yep.
It's that simple. I mean, this is
That was perfect,
speaking
though.
of which, otherwise, this is the other one I wanted to play. Wait a minute. Where is it? Okay. Yeah, here we go. Listen to this, guys. All right. And actually, I'm going to put it up so I want you to look at their faces. Okay. This is why I tell you this is trouble.
Say appeasing the public. You're talking about appeasing conspiracy theorists, insurrectionists, weirdos,
crazy people,
freaks.
Look at her face.
Fascists who are now going online talking about violence against the federal judge. These are people, like you
hypocrites.
Said, you're never going to win with this group. But you look at the people that are squawking the loudest. They're the people. I mean, it's what you expect. Someone who's guilty and know that justice is about to come down on them. It's how you expect them.
Justice for what?
So. I think there's way too much.
By the way, let me just pause this and say, why is she acting like the white diamond in silk? That's right.
About the concern
Gets
about
worse.
these right-wing extremists and fascists. I think you call fascists, and if fascists are going out making threats.
Don is the messaging guy. How many times did he say fascist right there in 5 seconds?
What are we up to? About 10?
Yep.
Oh my.
Watch what he says to do with the fascist. Watch what he says to do.
I think what you do is, you go after them with the law.
The law!
But there's also
the rule of law. And if you have people on cable news channels that inspired violence leading up to January the 6th, and then were shocked on January the 6th, by the violence that took place, and then after January 6th, pretended like they weren't shocked by the violence that took place on January 6th, and they're doing it again. Well, there are legal channels for that too. When people obviously get hurt, they're being very.
The walls are closing in. Listen, let me ask you a question, Joe. Freak, fascist, freak. That's fascist, you stupid idiot. That is fascist. Read a book. Read a book when you're not trying to hide dead bodies. Read a book.
Yep.
Let me ask Joe something. What about cable news freaks who push fake conspiracy theories that put crazy ideas in the heads of nut jobs who then take rifles and shoot congressmen practicing for a charity baseball game? Does that qualify as somebody who should be prosecuted under the law? Because I'm not going to name his name. The shooter who shot Steve Scalise and 4 others absolutely did it because he believed you, Joe, that Donald Trump was a traitor who colluded with Vladimir Putin to steal the 2016 election, and he thought he was a hero because you told him Republicans were his enablers. They were enabling a traitor. So he got in his van with his firearms and he shot elected representatives and people who were tasked to protect them. Would that qualify as somebody the FBI needs to persecute?
This is important.
Crap.
This is important. That was the inciting. That was inciting people. Think of this next time somebody starts talking in your state about red flag laws. think about that. Wow, maybe that's an opportunity to get my fascist neighbor thrown in prison. Maybe that's an opportunity to get his guns taken away so he can't hunt. Think about all this stuff. He is inciting people to take action. That was a call to action. That's exactly what that
Trump
was.
is a traitor, and Republicans in Congress are enabling him. One of the last things he posted, he heard it verbatim out of the mouth of that idiot, his stupid wife, and Rachel Maddow. And then that was one of the last things he posted before he decided to put some holes in Steve Scalise.
Yep. But what does the media do, Rich? Whenever that's kind of stuff
nothing.
happens,
They ran to Facebook to scrub
No.
it off of Facebook. If I didn't screenshot it when we did, nobody would even know what his motive was.
They do worse
I was the only one who reported it.
They do worse than nothing. What they did when the Scalise thing happened, the first thing they came out and said was, doesn't really matter what side of the aisle you're on. We've got to stop the violence. We've got to, James Holmes. There's a James Holmes who's a part of the Aurora, Colorado Tea Party. We don't know that it's the same one, but
not.
He was not. It's worse than doing nothing. They're doing something. That's the fascism. That is the irresponsible and the stuff that incites people. I mean, and then they walk around and they
Retrial
go,
going on right now.
Yeah.
Retrial going on right now. Those guys who were who plotted to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer were fascist Trump supporters and white supremacists, blah, blah, blah. No, they were not. Okay? Look what they did to Richard Jewell after Georgia. I mean, these people don't care who they hurt. They're pretending like they're so offended and scared about the public safety. They're so full of crap. They are so full of. They just last week they were pumping up. Oh, there's a serial killer on the loose killing Muslims. It never occurred to them. They went through every possible outcome in the book. You think this is because of Donald Trump? They went through every potential favorable to them outcome in the book, and it ended up being a Muslim who was conducting honor killings. What did they do? Drop the story. Nobody cares anymore. Nobody cares anymore. These people are dangerous. These are dangerous people. And I don't mean dangerous because we got to go, the law's got to go after. I'm talking about they are reckless, they're irresponsible, and insane. They are coming for you. They're coming for you. Did you hear? He was talking about Tucker Carlson. He wants Tucker to be arrested. You understand what he just said on TV? Fascism. He wants Tucker Carlson arrested, ladies and gentlemen. Mm-hmm. You believe this crap?
He's not the only one, Rich. He's not the only one saying that. They're all saying
this
it.
This is nuts.
This is war.
I say this, what really not all, it's not the words. It's not the words in the Constitution. It's not the words in the Declaration. What gave us this moral high ground was that we actually practiced what we preached when it came to certain things. And the bottom line is that we settled our political differences at the ballot box. We did not settle them with persecutions and prosecutions and the jury box. This is what they do. This is what real fascists do. And by the way, everyone better stop referring to these people as socialists. They want to label you as fascist because they know that is actually effective and scary. The truth is they are literally the textbook definition of fascist, literally. And I'm talking about their favorite system of government and everything. When we were just talking with Dave from Volta, that's fascism. When the federal government, by the way, Alex Berenson, in case you didn't see it on Twitter, ladies and gentlemen, the federal government had Twitter ban Alex Berenson. Mm-hmm. It's out now. He put it on his Substack. That's fascism. When the federal government directs private industry to make moves in policy and take policy based on their direction, that is quite literally the economic definition of fascism.
Ministry
Hitler
of Truth.
Own those plans. Right. Hitler, the Ministry of Truth, which is coming back. It's going to make a comeback. They paused it. They didn't end it, Don. They paused it. It's coming back. And by the way, they got Twitter doing what they did before 2020, only they have them doing it early now. And I'm telling you, mark my words, Don, those of us who have polling results that don't meet the narrative will eventually be labeled misinformation, even when we're right. And they're wrong. You watch. It's going to happen. Let's see. Let's get to a couple of things here. Leora Levy winning her primary in Connecticut. You know, heavy lift. Also, Trump, yeah, he did endorse her. I don't know. You got anything to say about her, Don? I don't really at this point. Connecticut's a heavy lift.
No.
I'm not sure she's MAGA either, to be honest. I just don't know enough.
Same here. Yeah, same here.
What about Michaels' plan to build a new prison? Can I ask that? Do you know about that, Don? I don't.
Yeah, so like I said earlier, so he owns one of the 3 big companies in Wisconsin. Those are the only 3 that could do a prison, those kind of buildings. So yeah, he gets all those, he gets most of the state contracts. So this was something I think that was in the works previously. I mean, I don't know all the details on it, but I had heard about this before. So I believe this was something that was kind of already in the works. So it doesn't really have anything to do with, what's going on with the election right now. But if they're going to pay him, he's going to build it.
So, I'm going to wrap up a few of them into one, which is, did you see the Slimer's tweet this morning? A Democratic advantage, with question marks. Also about predictions for Georgia and Pennsylvania. I went over this in the first 30 minutes of the show, which is that, Don, do we not see this every election cycle? Mm-hmm. It looks like Republicans are going to do well. Then I tell everybody that, get ready for the polls in the silly season. We enter the summer, especially. It starts to show what appears to be a Democratic advantage. You can go back, Google it right now. Washington Post, Democrats have favored to keep the U.S. Senate. That is in September of 2014, weeks before they get thrashed. 2020, Democrats are looking to pick up 5 to 15 seats in the U.S. House. That did not happen. They lost 13. On and on and on. Leaks to Politico, leaks to the Washington Post from Mitch McConnell and his ilk. Save yourselves, right? It's like total panic button. He's such a coward. Mitch McConnell, he's the worst leader, Don. What kind of a leader is like you're on the Titanic abandoned ship? What kind of a leader does that? That's what Mitch McConnell does every single election cycle. Every single one. And I told you I'm sure Don will speak to this too. Just for right now, you will see the polls tighten later in the game, but they almost never reflect reality. The predicting the things that are predictive are not good news for Democrats. End of story. Look at turnout, Don. Mm-hmm. For crying out loud, why does freaking iMusic keep opening over? I mean, not closed 10 times. But we're just going to see this, are we not? I mean, this is just the way it goes.
Yeah. No, that was one thing I wanted to actually
every cycle
ask you about was the turnout, because so I took like the attorney general race, right, in Wisconsin, statewide race, so it kind of gives you a little bit of a indicator, because that's usually not like one of the exciting ones. Like, I don't think too many people are showing up just to vote for the attorney general, so I kind of always use that. Plus, Evers had no opponent, so you can't really tell what it was for. I mean, there was nobody running against him, but it was an 100,000 vote difference between Republican and Democrat, and I'm talking the AG race. So I'm curious on what that was in the other states. I don't know if that was something you had a chance to really dig into yet, but for Wisconsin, yeah, I mean, you had 571,000 plus votes for Republicans, and it was 472,000 for Democrats. So I'm hoping that that's an indicator for enthusiasm.
Minnesota as well.
Minnesota as well.
Minnesota as well was a big deal for Republican turnout in 18. And there was some people made these comments, and they're right. In 18, where Democrats did not have competitive races, they still came out. And in Minnesota 1, for instance, they still outvoted Republicans. And yet, this time, last Tuesday, Republicans outvoted Democrats. So in Texas, it was 2-1. In North Carolina, where it's extremely difficult, both did have primaries that were competitive. You were looking at a significant turnout advantage, even though Democrats' registration advantage, and it's a semi-closed primary, is bigger than Republicans. So it tells you that Democrats are not turning out at rates that Republicans are. It's just that to look at Arizona, they certainly had their own races in Arizona. Another story, too, that nobody's talking about, somebody brought up in Connecticut. The lieutenant governor of Connecticut was defeated. Vermont, was defeated by a left-wing nutcase. Nobody is talking about how in the Democratic primaries, the Democratic Party is not lurching to the left. They have swung hard left. And in many, even in areas of the country where it's not like Vermont, they're winning. The left, the far left is winning. And, you know, Nancy's time is up regardless. I mean, because they're eventually she would just not be the leader of the party. I mean, she's really lost her grasp on power. She has.
Well, yeah, but I think that's the whole party.
The money's.
I think,
yeah,
okay,
it is.
so I think whoever replaces Nancy, I don't think anybody will ever control the Democrat Party as well. And I know, hey, don't throw anything at me, as well as Nancy Pelosi did. She did a great job of it. This
Once
party
did. Yes.
This party is so out of control now. But I'm saying, even like right now, if you were to replace her tomorrow with somebody else, I don't think anybody else would be able to keep AOC at least somewhat in check, or the entire squad, or all the others. So, I mean, she's got her hands full with what's going on in that party. Like you said, they've lurched so far left. And I think when they get to their next leader, they're not going to have that established respect. They're not going to have, they love Nancy Pelosi because she raises a lot of money. She's been probably the most effective leader of a political party that's been able to, as far as fundraising goes, and as far as controlling media narratives and all those, she's very skilled at this. And so I don't know, I don't see anybody waiting in the wings that's going to be able to do anything anywhere near as well as she did.
And let me, you know who she modeled her, I mean, it's well known, you know who she stated it. She modeled her leadership style in the House on Newt Gingrich. Mm-hmm. She did. She was like, you know, that man took the reins, man. And that's it. And he had control of that crap. You know, I'll say Ilhan Omar almost lost. That was interesting. She came very close to losing.
Did you know anything about? I didn't know anything about her opponent.
No,
I didn't even pay attention.
Came out of left field.
Yeah,
came out of 35 points. She won by 2 years ago.
But that was a more moderate, right? Positioned as more moderate. Yeah.
This one, I think that this can happen to her and Rashida Tlaib if they're not careful. There are balkanized areas within both of their districts, and if the Somali population, Muslim populations do not come out for them, they can go down. You know, that's a fight that should be getting written about like crazy. And the fight is the Islamic Democratic base versus the traditional African American base. And as of now, since the rise of those two, you know, like Brenda Jones, remember Brenda Jones? The African American base is losing. They are losing this fight. So, you know, I'll leave it up to you guys
Last midterm, as we went around and just talked to people, and we talked to a lot of people from the Black community that were in Dearborn. Sorry if you're from there. Anyway, you know what I'm saying. If you're, but we didn't find a single person that actually liked Rashida Tlaib. Not a single person. Yeah. They all said the same thing. She had a foul mouth because these were church-going people. These were, you know, Christians. These were, and they don't like the way she talks. They don't like her policies. They didn't like anything about her. We were asking people, can you name one thing that you like about it? And it was like the clip you played there. I'm done talking. It's like, no, they couldn't.
Yeah.
The answer was no. They didn't like her.
Yeah, and they got their own bases, but the rest of the districts don't, you know, are just kind of stuck with them. And that's not who they're traditionally used to. You know, so it's going to be interesting to see how that goes from here on out. But yeah, Wisconsin turnout was, I don't see how it ever survives. I know what people keep showing in the polls of what people keep showing. But again, guys, I'd remind you, go look at the polling, number one, in 2016 in Wisconsin. Look at it in 2018. Look at it in 2020. It's bad. Polling in Wisconsin is among the worst. Among the worst. So much so that in 2016, I remember handing it off. It was like Larry and Steve Bannon wondering what the last poll of ours was going to be. And Larry called me and he's like, what do you got? What do you got? What do you got? I'm like, damn it, Larry. I'm trying to crunch the number. I'm trying to wait, leave me alone. Cause you got to really pay attention. You know, back then, especially, you know, market site was not like as sophisticated. A lot of this was by, I was always a longhand guy, right? Anyway, I remember I got that Trump +1, and I look and I'm like, look at the rest of the polling in this state. This is horrible. I didn't even believe it. But I got what I got. So I put it out there, you know, and that was the first time. And I remember too, look at Johnson. I think I had him up by like 2.5 points or something. So, you know, he basically was always down. He never looked like he was going to be able to survive. Never. So they underestimated him. If you remember, he was one of the first races to be called for re-election that night. So, it is what it is. I tell people, and I wrap up a bunch of questions and just say this. The polling right now is going to be horrible, and people are going to make race calls, ratings changes because of this polling. It happens every damn year, every single year. And by the way, that's how you know the Slimer isn't a modeler. He's a poll reader. All he's doing is reacting to let me ask you something. Have any of the other predictive indicators gotten better for Democrats? The economy, right track, wrong track. Has anything improved? Even Biden's approval rating just edged a little bit above 40 on Real Clear Politics. That is still wipeout territory, and everybody knows it. Has anything other than these polls improved the situation for Democrats? No. No. The answer is no. They are in historically dangerous territory right now. So even Trump's approval was still in mid 40s at this time, and it was like 46 or something like that. It was 1 point below Obama in the analysis I read on Real Clear Politics. So they're just reacting to that. And I really believe it's probably just a response bias. Otherwise, look, Don, they underestimated the working turnout in Wisconsin very clearly. Again, Emerson took a fart. Again, Emerson took another fart. It's like we're starting to really not know who is even going to have a chance. Does the GOP have a chance in statewide races in Minnesota? Yes. That race in Minnesota for governor is close. It's close. And from what I saw the other night, the answer is yes. What are your thoughts on that race, Don?
No, I totally agree. Yeah, I think really almost everything is. I don't want to say everything because I think almost everything is in play right now, and it's really not that long ago, Rich, that Michigan was in play on, or Minnesota, I'm sorry, was in play on statewide races. I mean, it wasn't that long ago. So
that's right.
We lost it for a little bit. It turned bad, but now it's turning back. And as long as this administration keeps doing what they're doing, I think anybody's got a chance in Minnesota.
Yeah, I think too, when you're looking at especially Minnesota's a very high turnout area. You have up by Duluth. It's kind of amazing. You look at Scott Jensen, the Iron Range. He did extraordinarily well in St. Louis and all the way out from, St. Louis to Cook. I mean, that's what Republicans are going to have to do to flip this state. They're not going in the foreseeable future. They're not going to do significantly better in some of the suburbs like Ramsey County, things like that. I just don't see it. I just don't.
You take out
you're going to have to.
You take out the Twin Cities, and you're back to that rural America. You're back to that, where they're going to tend to be more conservative, but it's just that the Twin Cities is a huge chunk of the vote there. So
overall, there was more votes, Democratic primary votes, than there were Republicans in Minnesota, not by much. But in the competitive areas, Republicans outvoted Democrats. So that's again, a lot of spin after Tuesday's election. Finstad barely beat Edinger. Finstad got 51.1% of the vote. The last Republican got 50.1. It's an increase. Well, Trump carried it by 10. Trump is Trump. Okay? That is not, you got to compare to the congressional candidates. That's why I say sometimes with Republicans, they get a little bit too bullish on districts that they think they can carry from Biden, But anyway, what do you got going on? Because we got a PO. What do you got going on tomorrow?
So we've got a lot of stuff going on tomorrow. We're obviously going to do the wrap up on CPAC, the coverage. Great spending time with you and Laura last week. We enjoyed it. And so we'll be going through some of that stuff. We got clips from Kash Patel. We've got James Carafano. We got a lot of stuff. We got Free Space. So the CEO of Free Space, John Willis, will have that was an interview, a pre-tape that I did with him after we ended our coverage. But yeah, really cool stuff because we did a lot of this stuff about this parallel economy kind of thing. And I thought that was great. And I know you had David on earlier to talk about Volta Wireless. So pretty cool stuff. But yeah, we got to hang out with some cool people there. And I want to take it back inside the scenes because there were so many things that happen when we're not on Radio Row or we're not, doing this or that. Most heartbreaking one was we come back, we're waiting for the general who was in watching President Trump's speech. We couldn't make it in there because we got kind of shut out by the broadcast, right? Once we were done, we couldn't get in. So it was like we had to just take everything up and get out of there. But we ran into Ashley Babbitt's mom, and it was, oh my God. I mean, it's so disgusting. So we sat there and talked about her. She's got to read all this stuff on social media. All you warriors out there with keyboards writing all this horrific stuff about how she deserved it and all this awful stuff. We sat there with her mom for what? And I'm going to be honest, we were all in tears. We were all hugging, and she went through all the pictures showing her growing up and on horseback as a 7-year-old kid. And oh
my God,
it was just so emotional. But there's so many things like that happened, and I want to share a few of those stories. Obviously, there was more to that, but anyway. So yeah, we got a lot of stuff going on. Noon Eastern time tomorrow. We got Peter Hussey. We got, of course, Rich, the People's Pundit Barris on the program. So it should be a great show. I think everybody will enjoy it. Gordon Chang. I've got a clip of Gordon Chang. So Major General Paul Vallely interviewing Gordon Chang on China. It was so cool, so awesome. It's so great that he could make it and be there in person, and he loved it. He had a great time. Well, the first trip out there wasn't so good, but anyway, I'm sure we'll talk about that on his show Monday. So a lot of stuff going on in the program tomorrow, Saturday, noon Eastern time, DonSmithShow.locals.com. I got a bunch of extra stuff that I'll be putting up on my locals page too. So check us out there, Rumble channel, Don Smith Show. And thanks you guys. We had so much fun working with you guys, and I thought it was really cool.
Oh yeah, it's a blast. It really was. It was a good time. It was a good time. Yeah, I guess with that we'll take it out. You know, it's we're a bit over here, and I appreciate you staying along for the ride. All right, I had to go on my little FBI rant before we got to our Q&As. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't forget, guys, Don Smith Show on Rumble tomorrow, noon Eastern Standard Time, and I'll see you there myself. All right, all the best, my friend. I'm going to take us out.
Thank you.
All right, guys, don't forget, that was Don Smith Show, and you can check him out on Locals, donsmithshow.locals.com. All right. Follow me on Getter, Twitter, Truth, you know it, at Peoples_Pundit on Twitter, at Peoples Pundit on Getter and Truth, and of course, YouTube, Rumble. And while you're on Rumble, look right there. Join and sign up to the Locals community, peoplespundit.locals.com. We had a nice little burst for fundraising for the Public Polling Project. Grab the link, share it far and wide, and we'll see you guys tomorrow on Don Smith Show. And we will also see you here on next week. All right? And we love you all too. Reading all your comments. Thanks for joining us. Have a safe weekend. All right? Be cool. Deuces.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love? Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be. I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. There's rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love. Because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
And take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to spear for a knife to give into the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette.